Coach Saban, what do you make of his claims that NFL rookies are too soft?
Well, I can't, I'm not in his situation. I don't know what his team's like, but I know all of our players that go in the NFL, they come back and tell me how easy it is, compared to what they're used to. So, and I do think, though, that he makes a point. We don't practice like we used to. They don't practice in the NFL like they used to. We don't practice like we used to. We don't have two-a-days anymore. But all these rules have really been made for player safety. And I think that's a good thing. And I think that, when I was in the NFL, we used to go to camp right after the 4th of July and have 6 weeks of training camp. And I know they don't have that anymore. So there's been a lot of changes in football, and I think we have to protect the image of our game. And I do think that player safety is one of the things that has got to be at the forefront of every decision that we make.
Coach, I'm all about player safety, and I played probably around a little bit after you did in terms of the 6 weeks of two-a-days. I know all about that too, and I want no part of it, not for myself or the current players, so to speak, because that was tough. But I do agree I agree with Coach Harbaugh in a sense that I think taking away the two-a-day practices, it kind of hurts the game, so to speak, because you learn how to tackle, and not you yourself. I'm sure you don't go 25 practices or just straight two-a-days. It's a walkthrough. It is, shells, things of that sort, where it's not all contact. And I agree in a sense that you have to get yourself in football shape in terms of carrying pads. That as a player is valuable to every player across the board.
Right, but I think we have a cultural problem right now in sports, in all sports. Look, we don't have two-a-days anymore because we're not allowed to have them in college football. We're allowed to have 25 practices, not 29. We're allowed to have walkthroughs. But I do think that, in the old days, toughness was really something that was at a premium. And we did a lot of hitting. We had a lot of pads. We had a lot of contact type drills. That's changed somewhat, a little bit for player safety, but also the culture has changed. I mean, building mental toughness and toughness on your team, and there's a lot of different kinds of toughness that you build on your team. I mean, people that do that, you get criticized for that nowadays because other people are playing music and stuff during flex, not doing up downs. We still do up downs, but all these things to me build a mental toughness and a perception that you have of what you have to do to play football, which is a tough game for tough people, and it's not for everybody. Now, I do think that when these guys go in the NFL, what they're so used to is our players are there all summer long, so they're conditioning with the strength and conditioning coach, so they're made to get in shape, to be able to go into camp when we start camp, and they're going to be in very good condition. I think when guys go to the NFL, they don't have that, and they're used to that, so they don't have the same kind of sort of internal way to get themselves ready to go to camp, and then maybe they don't show up in the kind of shape that they should.
Yeah, you're seeing these safety measures being implemented at almost every level of the game. Perhaps that's what prompted North Carolina head coach Larry Fedora to make these comments at ACC Media Days last week.
And I believe the game's under attack right now. I really do. And if we're not careful, we're going to lose what the game is all about.
Who do you think is, to use your word, attacking the game?
Well,
blaming us?
No, I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming anybody. I blame a groundswell of data that is tweaked one way or the other, because I can take the data and I can make it look one way. You can take the data and make it look another way. And whoever's presenting it is the one that gets to say so.
Coach, your thoughts on those comments about the game, the changes that we've seen?
Well, I do think the game is under attack to some degree, and in some cases maybe a little bit unfairly. But I choose to focus on, what can we do to make the game safer? I just saw at SEC Media Days last week, Commissioner Roger Goodell, and, the first, thing that we talked about was player safety, how to practice this new, face-up, policy that they're going to try to implement in the NFL, which may be hard to do. But at least as coaches, we're going to be coaching and teaching players a better way, a safer way. And I think that's important that we continue to do that. Don't focus on how we're getting criticized, but focus on some of the things that we can do to make our game better. Because I think every sport has some degree of risk. Some other sports have just as much a degree of risk as football. Football seems to get criticized a little bit more. Maybe it's because of the popularity that we have, as a sport and as a game. And I think we need to focus on protecting the game, which is going to start with player safety and how we protect the players.
Coach, where do you think we can continue to grow as fans of the sport and as someone that's so impactful to the direction of the sport? Where can we continue to grow to make sure that we do continue to value player safety, and what changes can be implemented into the game to maybe make it a little safer but still reflect the values and of what we've come to know football to be?
Well, I think some of the things that have been implemented, right now have made it a lot better. I know when I played, as soon as you knew your name and you got a concussion, you went back in the game. All right, now we have a protocol and a test on every player, and until he goes back to normal on what those tests are and balance and so forth, you can't even practice. They don't even have activity. So we have a lot of good protocol that goes with it. I think we coach player safety a lot better, how we teach tackling. We're back to near leg, near shoulder. Try to keep your face up, keep your head out of it. Don't strike with your helmet. I mean, there's a lot of things that we're doing that I think brings some more safety to the game. Do we have, a ways to go? I certainly do think so, but I think it's so much better now than it was in the past.